Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the January 22nd Wallingford Board of Education meeting. And I'd ask everybody to stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Linda, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mrs. Castelli?
Here.
Mrs. Corso?
Here.
Ms. Levesque?
Here.
Mrs. McKay?
Here.
Mrs. Purcell? Mr. Reynolds?
Here.
Mrs. Raccio?
Here.
Mr. Ross?
Here.
Mr. Votto?
Here.
8 members present and voting.
Perfect, thanks. I want to start off, before we do anything, I just want to welcome, we have 4 new board members joining us for the next 2 years, and they are Ray Ross, Aaron Corso, Tammy Raccio, and Patty Purcell is, I don't know, she's still going through the streets of Thailand, I believe. She's been on vacation in Thailand for a couple weeks, so I think she's returning in the next day or so. But in any event, I want to welcome all 4 board members to our happy family, and I truly hope you have as a rewarding experience on the Board of Ed as I personally have had for the last 12 years. So I hope it's a good experience for you. So welcome. Glad to have you. So with that, we'll start with our student board reps. Lyman Hall. Do we have Samuel? Come on down. How are you? Good, thank you. Good to see you tonight.
Good to see you too. So I hope everyone had a great holiday and a happy
I know,
New
it's
Year.
kind of funny. We're still talking about that. It's like a month ago, huh?
I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
We haven't seen each other.
I know.
Yeah, did you have a good break?
Yeah, how about you?
Good, excellent. Well, I didn't have a break, but yeah, it's good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I had a good
It was
holiday.
nice.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, yep, at Lyman Hall, we're halfway through midterms. Today we had our second day out of the 4, and on Thursday we're going to be starting the second semester. On January 11th, our Unified Theater had their production of Who Done It, which was a huge success at Lyman Hall. And on Martin Luther King Day, which was the 14th, we had several students representing Lyman Hall who wrote and presented speeches. Our indoor track team, within the last month, broke, I think they said 5 school records. The events including a record time in the 3200, the 300, the 4x400, and in the sprint medley relay, our team broke our school record and also qualified for nationals. So there's 4 runners that qualified for nationals so far in the season. And a few more sports updates are that our boys swim team is 2 and 3, our boys basketball team is 4 and 7, our girls basketball team is 6 and 6, our hockey team is 7 and 3, and our second and final Sheehan hockey match is on February 17th.
Great.
This Thursday we'll start the first day of the second semester, and we will also on that day have our Choices Matter program with a guest speaker. This speaker will present to our juniors and seniors about making good choices now and down the road. And looking into February, on the 7th, we will have several capstone presentations at Lyman Hall, and we'll also be starting our course selection for next school year. Thank you, and I look forward to updating you further next meeting.
Thanks. As always, there's a lot going on. Okay, how about from Mark Sheehan? Do we have Rajan? Rajan, come on down. How are you? Good to see you.
On January 5th, we had our advisory lessons. On the 6th, we had our basketball doubleheader against Lyman Hall, and we won both. On January 9th, we had an Office 45 session. On the 13th, we hosted our hockey game against Lyman Hall Co-op at Wesleyan. There is a very large crowd and a great atmosphere. January 16th ended the marking period 2, with our exams taking place from the 17th through the 22nd. These were midterm exams for full-year courses and final exams for half-year courses. On January 24th, at night, we will be having the Planning Your Future 101 seminar for our juniors, and our juniors will be having their course selection assembly on the 29th, and the portal will close on February 5th. All of our fall All-State student athletes were also recognized in January. Going on into February, we have cap and gown orders on the 1st, report cards emailed home on the 1st. February 6th and 7th are our capstone presentations, the 6th at Sheehan and the 7th at Lyman Hall, where students will be presenting about their projects. The 13th is sophomore course selection assembly. The portal will be lasting until February 21st. On February 15th will be our 8th grade orientation. On the 27th, our sophomores will be going to the Park and Rec for the Credit for Life program. We will also be having rehearsals for our musical throughout the month of February. We will be having rematches of all our sports games against Lyman Hall. And our winter sports postseason starts, and we'll start preparing for spring sports. Thank you for your time. Next month I will provide an update on the February events, as well as information about March's events.
Thanks, Rajan. Great job. I want to wish all our students at both Lyman Hall and Sheehan best wishes on their exams. I'm sure it's a very stressful time for them right now. And I also just want to take a second and acknowledge both our high schools who participated so beautifully for Martin Luther King celebration. I'm sure Dr. Menzo's going to mention it too, but the Sheehan, was it the jazz band? Yeah, the jazz band was played. They were fantastic. And we had, from Lyman Hall, we had students that read their essays that they had written, and they were very personal and very heartfelt, and they did such an amazing job representing our school. So I was very proud. So great job there. Okay, next on our agenda, 5 is presentation and awards. Dr. Menzo.
Yes, this evening we're very pleased, finally, because their band season, not that it's ended, but has taken a little bit of a respite. We're honored to recognize Lyman Hall Marching Band for not only being Connecticut State champions, but also New England champions in Class 5A. I always forget that because when we do the band competitions, this is not sponsored by Dingles either, Mr. Del Vecchio. That's a little joke that we have because there's a sponsor all the time, and they always get their name recognition out there. But I wanted to ask Mr. Del Vecchio to come up and help recognize the student with us, and us also. Mr. Corso is here as the principal. This is a great accomplishment, and I think that sometimes we forget the hard work that goes into marching band. There are so many components to it. We see it where we're the recipients of the performance at either a football game or going to the band competitions, which I have the pleasure of going to each year, or hearing parts of it at pep rallies, things like that. But the hard work and the commitment, as many of you know, and if you don't, this starts in August. They start early August. And they work straight through, usually by the first day of school or so, they're doing a performance for their parents to kind of show them a showcase of what they've learned. But at that point, it's not a finished product. And what's kind of fun, I know, for a lot of the administrators and, of course, the parents who get to see the evolution of the performance and the ultimate presentation, is it's just that, it's an evolution. It starts out and they might have part of their costumes. They have part of the set. They're building something else, and every time you see it, it's growing. And it's not only growing in its artistry, but it's also growing definitely in its performance. And the students are coming together as a band so incredibly well as a family. And we're very fortunate that we have amazing music programs at both high schools, both at Sheehan High School and Lyman Hall. And the directors get along very, very well, which is incredible because they really feed off of each other with the creativity and their desire to push their students. And it's a pleasure to be here tonight, again, to recognize Lyman Hall. And again, Mr. Del Vecchio, and if I could have Mr. Corso come on down. So thank you, and congratulations. I don't know if you want to explain a little bit more about the competition.
I just want to thank the Board of Education and Dr. Menzo for honoring these students with their hard work. I do want to say it is, like other students have said, it is midterms, so there are very few students that were able to make it tonight, but they do appreciate the invite. It's just the midst of midterms, which I didn't realize until recently. But if you have not seen the competition portion of what the marching band does, you see us at the football games, and our halftime shows are generally designed for competition season, our season, which happens during the fall every Saturday for a while, and that's how that show is designed. Our Thanksgiving with the working with Sheehan High School this year, Thanksgiving was great this year. We had got to put both the marching bands together. We had 185 students on the field at one time. We did a whole show that we designed just for that night, or just for that morning, and it was kind of a neat adventure to kind of put the two amazing musical groups together. So again, thank you for honoring us tonight, and I'd like to read off the names. Thank you. Sure. Yeah, sure. Sure. Yeah. Yep. Sure. If I were your name and you're here, if you can come up, that would be great. Thank you. Emily Austin, Santiago Berrigan Murillo, Ethan Barshesky, Ethan Bao, Drew Bernard, Sona Benham, Eliana Bania, Aiden Brookie, Ashley Buchanan, Jacob Camputaro, Alexis Kanata, Stephanie Kaplan, Kirtana Chagari, Corbin Chambers, Dylan Chow, Antonio Collins Evans, Lauren Condon, Salvatore Cosentino, Alexander DeCrosta, Daniel Doherty, Patrick Doherty, Joshua Dommel, Emily Dionfro, Grace Draghi, Kendra Ellison, Samuel Fabriello, Casey Lynn Federico, Brian Fernando, Cooper Ferrigno, Angela Focaretto, Sean Fermontes, Haley Fowler, Ana Sofia Garcia, Irene Garcia, Laurel Geist, Tay Gilbert, Daniel Gilday, Samantha Gross, Jamie Heinrich, Citlali Hernandez, Leslie Hernandez, Gregory Hernandez Rodriguez, Nathan Hinckley, Corbin Hopkins, Aaliyah Hunter, Aaron Keefe, Raymond Niffin, Jacob Kulas, Audrey Larson, Stephen Lawler, Krista Lessing, Raymond Yera, Alan Lopez, Kenan Marty, Cody Mason, Sydney Motti, Jillian Finn McBride, Lauren McCall, Molly McCall, Ryan McCall, Sarah McCall, and yes, we do have their, each year is represented. They're the same family, freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors. No, they're not quads, no. Kevin Merchant, Alexa Mesley, Nicholas Moran, Sydney Munger, Autumn Murray, Matthew O'Boyle, Brian Oliveira, Michelle Orozco, Shyla Ortiz, Megan Paulman, Dean Paquette, Cameron Potter, Michaela Puglelli, Imanol Ramirez, Rebecca Robles, Miriam Salawi, Connor Smith, Tori Soares, Chloe Stankuna, Garrett Stankuna, Rajani Subramanian, Nicholas Taylor, Aika Tetro, Bien, oh, there's Aika. Bien Divo, Michael Toppin, Alexandra Torres Munoz, Abigail Trothier, Valencia Vasquez, Abigail Visi, and Andrew Visi. Justin Velez, Gregorio Venegas, Enrique Venegas Ambrosio, Sullivan Voss, Sophia Vong, Katarina Wall, Jackson Wallach, Matthew Wallach, Madison Whalen, Nicole Wiedemann, and Robert Wilcox. We did have a couple that just walked in. Who was it? There you go. Ana Garcia, Irene Garcia, and Michelle Orozco.
Yeah.
Now, can we just give a round of applause for these students? And again, thank you so much for your time, and it was a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much, and to the parents too, because I know without the band parents, we could certainly not do what we do as a school district, so thank you.
Okay, our next item is public question and answer period. Any questions for the Board of Ed? Any questions? Okay, I'm going to assume there's no questions, so close that up. What I'd like to do, with the permission of the board, is to play with our budget, play with our agenda a little bit, and move item 13, which is operations, which is in our item 13, Operations Committee, is our budget presentation. I'd like to move it up to the next item, so folks in the audience, and we do have administrators here, thank you so much for coming, so that let's get through budget, and then if you folks want to stay, you're more than welcome to stay for the remaining part of our meeting, but feel free to leave after budget if that's your sole reason for being here. So with that, oh, I'm sorry, Karen.
Yes. On Wednesday, January 17th, the budget overview was scheduled to be presented at our operations meeting. However, due to inclement weather and a snow day for our students, the budget overview will be presented this evening. So, but this is an overview only, so persons that have questions about the specifics in the budget, I would draw their attention to our budget review workshops, which will take place on Wednesday, January 24th at 6 p.m. at the Board of Education Conference Room at 100 South Turnpike Road. Monday, January 29th, same location. And Wednesday, January 31st, 6 p.m. All of those meetings are at 6 p.m. at 100 South Turnpike Road for budget review. So this will be an overview only this evening. So with that, Dr. Menzo has a presentation.
Yes, thank you very much, and I promise I won't necessarily go through every single slide, over 100 slides we have. What I want to, though, share with everyone is that this is, or will be available on our website tomorrow morning, if not sooner. We'll be sending out, as we always do, an email to all parents with this presentation, as well as a fact sheet and a survey asking them to give us feedback, and send out a similar communication to our staff with the presentation, the fact sheet, and a survey also. The survey, we will collect that data, and we will share results or some information from the survey on Monday, the 29th of January at our workshop. Before I get started, because I do not want to forget, this presentation this evening is not the work of one individual. This is the work of many individuals at central office, those here this evening, as well as people who couldn't be here this evening. But I would like to, again, just publicly recognize Dominic Barone, our business manager, Karen Veyu, our technology director, as well as our food services director, David Mensher, Laura Klimaszewski, our special ed director, Carrie Latour, curriculum superintendent, assistant superintendent, and assistant superintendent for personnel, Cindy Levelette, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, as well as Mark Deptula, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, our building and grounds maintenance director. I would also want to recommend that everyone look at this through the lens that this is the first step. So I just want everybody to understand that we really did work very collaboratively with our building administration, which I also want to recognize for being here this evening for their support. Because, again, a budget like this of over $100 million does not just get developed in a vacuum. It gets developed over many days, many weeks, many hours spent on this. So with that said, we always start with our mission and vision to really just make sure that we are focused and we look at the fact that we always are looking to inspire and innovate, engage our students and all of our learners in experiences that allow all of us to pursue our personal best. We also, in our vision, we believe in our partnerships, and you'll see some of our partnerships, and we'll highlight some of them tonight. But we really do believe in our partnerships, and we provide a safe and healthy environment that makes sure that we're igniting and enduring passion for excellence. And I think that's the key to what we've always been striving for, and we're still proud of these. These were revised over the last 2 years, and I think that they definitely represent the mission and vision of what we've tried to work towards over the last 9 years since our strategic plan became in existence. District focus areas, just to remind everyone, we have our strategic plan, but we have 4 focus areas that really get blown out of that and blown up in terms of detail to make sure that we are really focusing our attention, having a coherence of our message, a coherence of our vision as a district. And we always put our minds around the concepts of intervention, models of excellence, proactive student supports with a future focus, and engaging and empowering learning experiences. These are really what drive what we do at our schools, what we do in our classrooms, and what we try to do in terms of working with our community members. As many of you are aware, again, with our focus on the Wallingford 100, 100% community involvement, 100% student engagement, leading to 100% student success. So each year we kind of go back and we look at our progress indicators. We have community involvement indicators that I'll share with you, student engagement and student success. This year, the Ed Connection that'll be going out to families throughout the community is our first edition of our balanced scorecard. We've been collecting data on this for the last 3 years, and it really highlights our progress towards the Wallingford 100 in all of these areas. So I encourage parents hopefully you'll take a look at it. It'll be on our website as well, and we'll make them available around town. We're very proud of this initial document. It's our first step, so there's always room for improvement, but we're very proud of the data that we're able to share with the community. So in terms of donations, you could see very clearly that our community support, and this is Wallingford as well as state, as well as national in some instances, continues to be strong. We're a little less than last year. However, we have gained partnership agreements which definitely offset, if not exceed, donation experiences or experience ratings from the past. Our partnership with IBM alone in Office Depot is valued at over $200,000. That's not factored into this. And then we've established recent partnerships with Legends of Learning, which is approximately $17,000, and we have other partnerships. So those, if we were to include the partnerships, we would have well have exceeded our nearly $250,000 that we collected in 15-16, but this past year we were close to being level in terms of our donations. And this is the hard work of all of our staff. Again, this is not one person. This is every teacher who goes out and tries to get a little additional support for his or her classroom, every administrator that tries to get a little support for his or her building or department. It's a collaborative effort, but it certainly has taken flight over the last several years. Our grants, again, last year we were perfect. We applied for 10 and we got 10. That's a pretty great ratio. Or percentage, 100%. These are competitive grants. These are not your entitlement grants that every district has access to, such as Title I, Title II, Title III, your IDEA grants. These are actual competitive grants that our educators are writing in our district, and again, valued at over $500,000 returned to the district. So we're very proud of our staff. We don't have a grant writer as a school district, and we really have grown staff in this capacity, and we're very, very proud of them. Our administrators, our teachers, all of our departments working together collaboratively. Because when you write a grant, and I know many people in this room have written grants before, you can't just write it in isolation. You have to collect, there's demographic data, there's a variety of curricular pieces that oftentimes have to come into play, there's financial pieces, so it's really a team effort. Community involvement, as I mentioned, we have a lot of partnerships. These just highlight some of our partnerships that we have from our community, and we're very, very fortunate to have such a wide range of partners in Wallingford. There is very seldom an opportunity that we bring forward that people do not try to involve themselves in. It might not be financially, which we totally understand, but oftentimes it's the human resources, providing someone to talk to students, providing someone's time to give insight into what we're doing as a district. So we're very, very privileged, and having spoke to many communities and superintendents over the course of the last 9 years, Wallingford stands out. And every time we bring a business in to talk to us about our mission and our vision, they're amazed at how people are willing to support our school system. So it's a real tribute to the entire community. And then our national partnerships, as I mentioned, Office Depot, IBM, Nariva Span Systems, which is a technology system that we've been fortunate to have a great partnership with, Touch It Technology, another partnership, and then Legends of Learning. And hopefully within the next month, we'll be announcing another partnership with a national company in the area of STEM for our students' grades 4th through 8th. Attendance, another characteristic, our attendance rates continue to rise. Last year we had a little bit of a dip, but we still stay pretty consistent with approximately 95% or a little over 95% of our attendance rates, and we're pleased to see that. That is not common in the state. The state average is lower, so we're very pleased with the support that we receive in students coming to school and parents supporting their children coming to school, families, be it a parent, grandparent, anyone who is supportive in making certain that the children come to our schools. We truly appreciate it because we can't achieve what we need to achieve academically and socially with students if they're not present. So we really do appreciate that, and it's a celebration for all of us. Student engagement, there's a lot of words on this slide. This is actually drawn from the district balance scorecard that is going out to families, but really we wanted to talk about our IT and our technology. The board support has allowed us to sustain a replacement cycle, which we're very fortunate. It also has allowed us to move towards a one-to-one initiative next fall at the high school, and really looking at universal access right now at the middle schools, meaning that if a student needs to use a Chromebook, it's available to a student at the middle school. We have plenty of Chromebooks going around on a daily basis. Their schools are issuing them in different ways. The students aren't taking them home, but they do have access to them throughout the day. And we're very pleased that we're able to move in this direction. At the elementary school, we've initiated Chromebooks at the 3-5. We also have iPads that are actively being used in pre-K2 classrooms. I know for a fact because I was doing a lesson last week in a pre-K2 classroom, and they had their their iPads out, and they were interfacing with actually the Nariva Span system that I mentioned earlier, putting up electronic post-it notes as we were trying to solve the problem of the 3 little pigs. And it was a great activity, and they were really very engaged with the technology. So I think anyone who knows, and it was cute, the little baby that was in the audience, was already focusing on the iPhone. The technology is there, and we're fortunate that our district has moved forward appropriately so. Student success, the state numbers are not out. They look at our numbers and they reevaluate them, so we don't have the official numbers, but right now we are well over we're looking to exceed our graduation rates from last year. Last year we were approximately 92%, 92%. This year we're looking to exceed that. So we're very pleased. And I think that the thing that's a tribute to our staff, our teaching staff, is that we haven't lowered our standards. And I think that's the key thing. And many people have read in the newspaper where other communities have made a decision to reduce graduation requirements for their students, reducing it from 24 or 25 to 21, which is the state, at this time, is the state average. We've maintained a higher level of credit requirements, and I believe the rigor that our teachers employ in their classrooms is a high level also. So this is, again, another celebratory moment for all of our members of our team. Adult education, 100% of our students graduated, and so again, we're very proud of all of our learners, no matter what stage in the continuum they may be on or may be in. We are very, very proud of all of our learners and all that we are able to impact on a yearly basis. These are just some other pieces of data that we've collected. You'll note that advanced placement, we have more students this year, significantly more students, over 200 more students in advanced placement courses last year. So again, our 2-year analysis, about 73% of the students received a score point of 3 or higher, which that was an increase since over the prior year. Varsity scholars have,
Yeah, just quick, because the audience might know that in order to earn college credit, it's got, well, some schools, have higher standards, but it's got to be 3 or higher, so that's why it's significant.
correct, and that's a very good point. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds, that a 3 is significant because most universities look at least a 3. Some of them look at 4s, and they don't even consider them unless they're a 4 or 5. But we do try to use that as a threshold, so we're very proud of our students to increase that benchmark and that success rate. Varsity scholars is down a little bit. However, if you notice, our National Honor Society is up. Varsity scholars, for those who might not be aware, is a Wallingford Public Schools initiative and designation based on grade point average and really their commitment to their learning. And it's a great event. Honor Society, as we know, National Honor Society has all the different components to it. And then in terms of the early college experience credits, there are over 1,340 credits earned by students at our high schools. That is incredible because when you add those credits and you actually take that and extrapolate that out in dollars and cents, it's a significant amount of savings per student for those students and their families. So we're very pleased that those numbers keep growing. And again, that's because our counseling staff, our teaching staff are working with students, encouraging them to stretch themselves because oftentimes we find that sometimes students will get to high school and they might not be as willing to stretch themselves, and there's that one teacher who sees something in him or her and says, you got to take that AP class or you should take that ECE class. And that's what is so exciting because we have teachers and our administrators and counseling staff that are really working hard to see things in children that sometimes they don't see themselves, and that's important. When we look at our student indicators, again, progress indicators, these are just this is information about last year's class in terms of acceptance. 71% accepted to 4-year colleges or universities, 18.2 at your 2-year college and universities, and then employment, military, and tech schools. Scholarships, this was down this year, but we think we know why. We think that there might be a little bit of an inconsistency in how we're collecting the data at the schools. So through my work and through a lot of people's work in this room with our counseling staff, we are going to kind of revisit that and make sure that we're collecting it in the same manner at both high schools. Because I think that we have definitely opened up many more opportunities for scholarships for students. That's for certain. The counselors have worked so hard to update Naviance on a regular basis, the software system for students for college and career readiness. And there's just a ton of scholarships out there for our students. So we just want to get to the root as to why this has dropped a little bit over the last few years. So now that we've talked a little bit about our progress indicators in terms of where we are as a district, we will get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak. Last year, not to relive the past, but just to kind of set a context, we had initially a sustained services budget was approximately 2.47. The strategic plan budget that we presented to, or that the board sent to the mayor, was a 0.52. with a total of a 2.99 being sent to the mayor for consideration. The mayor came back with a 1.8, and that's where we were situated this fall, starting July 1st, with a 1.8% increase. Oops, apologize. So over the past several years, you could take a look back from 07-08, you could see that the bold bar represents the proposed budget and then the town approved. And you can see that when you look at this graphically, it's about half in some instances, and then it's closer in some others. In 2011-12, and that period of time, 9, 10, 11, 12, there was an influx of some federal funds, so that offset the expenditure that the town needed to provide to the Board of Education. And then there was a releveling in 2012-13. We might remember, this is going back in everybody's memory, the AARA money, which was the American Recovery Act. And so that's where equalization had to occur in the 2012-13, where there were more town funds necessary in order to sustain services, because we had to at least meet services at that time, and it was all about supplementing rather than supplanting funds. So main outcomes from last year, we sustained or reduced class sizes in some instances, maintained all programs, maintained technology replacement cycle, as I mentioned earlier, expanded technology resources in some areas, and completed maintenance and capital projects in some areas. So as we move forward now to 18-19, just to revisit the process we go through, we look at our budget drivers, we look at our enrollment projections, and I have a lot of information on different enrollments this year that I want to share with the board. Reviewed identified efficiencies that do not directly impact students, and developed sustained services budget as well as strategic plan. So again, the budget drivers, as many of you know, this is not anything new. Contractual increases, insurance increases, and transportation contract. Those are significant areas of any school district's budget. When we look at enrollment, we are anticipating a 50 student decrease next year. This year we lost approximately 94 students, but this is where we stand, approximately 50 students that we see potentially down next year in terms of our enrollment. But when we look at something historically, we have to remember that back in 2007-08, we had 109 students coming from New Haven to our school district. At this time, because the board made a decision in 2009-10 to no longer admit students, we are down to 6 students. So not that necessarily explains the drop in enrollment. It does contribute to the drop in enrollment in terms of the number of students that were in our district from outside our district at that time. Special education, when we look at other enrollment data, from last year to this year, we have an additional 100 students that have been identified as special education in our district. 504, which is a branch, it's not special education, but the students do receive additional support services because they have a disability or a need that potentially infringes upon their ability to learn at the same rate of others. That has also increased by 20 students since last year. Our EL enrollment has increased by 29 students. That's English language learners, so students coming from other countries where English is not their first language, and they're put into either an EL program or a bilingual program, depending on the classification. Language is spoken in our district. I do think it's important to share with the community that Wallingford is a very diverse community. We're very pleased by the diversity. I think sometimes we don't necessarily see it to the extent that I know our teachers do in many instances in the classroom, and our administrators and our support staff. But we have a wonderful wealth of heritage and different languages being spoken in our district. We try to offer the most support as possible. We have incredible collaboration with some state organizations as well as CHOAT to make sure that parents feel comfortable and welcome in their native language when they're coming into our schools, especially for the first time. This is a piece of data that we wanted to share with you because it's kind of an important piece of data about the transiency. And I can't even use that word because when you look it up, according to the state, this doesn't meet the definition. It means that they're moving out multiple times over a short period of time. This basically shows you the number of students that were new to our district, and then the number of students who actually left our district during the course of last year. So last year we had student enrollees for 16-17, we had 622 new students, and we had withdrawals, students who left our district during last year, 262. So we had 622 new faces to our community, and then we had 262 students that ended up leaving. This year, we had 665 until December 31st. 665 new faces to our community, and we had 365 students withdraw. The reason why I bring this up is that this is another layer of the many experiences that we are now faced with in terms of addressing student need in our district. Not having a student throughout their entire educational career can sometimes present itself with gaps in learning and services that may or may not have been provided. So it's another nuance when we look at the success rate of our students and also the support that we need to provide our students. So right now we are seeing more students having that frequency of transition in and out. We work very closely, as the board knows, with our real estate agents. Most of them, as of last spring when we last met, see this as part of the trend with the rental units in town. But there are some turnover, obviously, turnover in housing in our real estate. I know the mayor on Friday said the real estate for residential was not as significant in changes in residencies. So we are seeing the rental properties transition more frequently. And again, the good news is that we really work very hard to support new students into our district. And we're proud of the fact that many times parents will say they're coming to us because they know the level of support we offer. However, again, it's another filter through which we have to view our budget and view our outcomes and our outlook for the future. Our eligible free reduced lunch population has gone up a little bit this year as of December. So as we looked at it, we went through, of course, the budget drivers. We went through the enrollment because those all play important factors in staffing, in resource needs, but we wanted to continue to look at our efficiencies. As the board has been shared in the past, information on our lean initiatives, we had and we continue to conduct Kaizen events to look at efficiencies and effectiveness. Building-based impact analysis, each building was asked to look at positions and in their buildings look at what had the greatest impact in reference to students and positions that may have had lesser impact. We had thoughtful conversations, not about reducing necessarily positions, but how could we increase the impact of some people in the organization? What gaps might we have identified as a school system in terms of needs for our students, and how potentially could those gaps be filled by existing staff that we had in our buildings? And again, tremendous amount of work on the part of our administrators, but it definitely led to extremely thoughtful conversation and led to the first two sections, really, of the budget book that are new to the Board of Education this year. So we reviewed the sustained services budget for the first time, maintained all necessary services and purchases from one year to the next. We did take into account enrollment reductions, so that's why there is a reduction in certified staff, because enrollment reductions, and we looked at other savings that were where possible. The areas reviewed specifically, we looked at wages, so you'll see some of the salaries that have been projected in terms of increases based on contractual agreements. We also looked at our retirement savings, and as I said, we reduced in our budget 12 teachers due to enrollment reductions. And eliminated counseling coordinator, which was a position that we had added a few years back, but we recognize that we have to make some challenging decisions. The position had been vacated, and we did not fill that position on a permanent basis. We also looked at other areas. One area that we reached out to our department heads at the high school, and we shared with them that we would like to increase their teaching load by 1 class instead of teaching 3, teaching 4 out of 5 classes, and we are in agreement to move forward with that, and we appreciate their support in that area. We did create, and I say this because I want to be very cautious to explain this, we have a health and wellness curriculum resource teacher. In the next year's budget, we believe, because we're eliminating the guidance coordinator, the counseling coordinator, that we'd like to move some of those responsibilities, if not all of those, to our health and wellness curriculum resource teacher, but make it a coordinator position. So that increase was $22,773 to make that position an administrative position and take on the responsibilities that came from the counseling coordinator. So the net savings is over $110,000, and we felt that that was a value-added decision, because right now, in order to accomplish the work that needs to be done, we would have to look at other potential outsourcing or other opportunities with part-time staff, and we wouldn't really get the efficiency that we believe we need in this position when it comes to bullying, comes to harassment, comes to all of those really significant topics in a school district, because this person would be the district climate coordinator. So that was a big role. The non-certified staff savings, by reducing 7 para-educators, 3 recess aides, 1 clerical through attrition, and retirement savings. The benefits at this time, we're seeing a 5% health insurance increase. We do have continued meetings with the town and our insurance provider, as well as our insurance consultant. So we're hopeful that that will be reduced. But again, that's a process. That's not something that we have for tonight. And I think the board members that have been on the board for a while know that this is something that we try to push to get information on a regular basis, to update our numbers. Hopefully we'll have an adjustment prior to you approving your budget to go to the mayor on March 1st, but we will keep you posted on that. And then severance benefits, this is the amount of money that's paid out to people that are retiring based on years of service and based on the number of accumulated sick time, and percentages that if that is paid out. And the non-certified, similarly speaking, for our clerical, our para-educator, or excuse me, our clerical staff predominantly, maintenance staff and such. The projected revenues, again, these are, we all know the state budget. We have a surprise every day. We think that it's been settled, and then there's a potential shortfall. And I know the most recent one we are all well aware came before the holiday. The mayor and I keep in touch on these all the time. So right now we're estimating a 68% revenue projection for our state grants. So we keep the board apprised of this as we move forward and post it on this. The estimated increases in water and utilities and sewer, this all comes through the town hall. We work collaboratively with those departments. They provide us with these increases, and then our business manager inserts those into the budget appropriately. The oil, we go collaboratively out to bid through the town, so we work with them on that. And then natural gas, we look at that based on potential increases. Maintenance, we have a contracted service increase of $65,588. That's due to contracts that we have. Many people may not know, but we contract our custodial services for all of our schools except our 2 middle schools. So there, during the day, we have our custodial staff, board funded, and then in the evening, we have outside services. So those contracts had an increase, so that's where you see that increase attributed to that. Our transportation budget, the contractual increases are based on increased services, but also based on the increase that is in the contract itself. And then, as I show here, we had our community forum, business meetings. I mentioned earlier that we will disseminate a staff survey and a parent survey tomorrow. So when we look at our sustained services budget, our final number that we're at right now is a 1.99% increase, which represents a $2,5,341 increase. So 1.99. So you'll know these were the sustained services budgets presented throughout over the last several years, and so we feel, well, we know that I'm sure there are many who would like to see this lower. We see this as a very good step in the right direction as a community, as a school district, seeing that this budget, the sustained services budget, doesn't look like there is no reduction in programming. There is maintaining the class sizes that the board has set as guidelines for us. It maintains the resources for our students, and so we're proud of that proposal of a 1.99. But when you look at this, and unfortunately in transition from apple to apple, there wasn't apples to apples transition. So some of the numbers aren't in here, but on the website you could see them, that you'll see the largest percentage increase is attributed to, as everybody would expect, personnel benefits and benefits. Those are the most significant increases. Other purchase services would be your transportation. So we see those two as the largest areas that you would see. And then professional technical ties into some of our special needs, our special services for our special needs students. And then property expenses ties into some of our rentals and other fees. So our budget drivers that are the top 10 increases, Dominic, our business manager, helped with this and put this together. We wanted to show you where our increases lie. And when we look at our increases, we have the increase in tuition. That's for special education tuition, for students who are being tuitioned to go to either private or public placement outside of our district. Benefits and insurance, as many people would imagine, is another driver. Special education paras, additional staff, even though we're reducing 7 para educators in this budget, there was an increase over the summer based on needs of students that were identified either over the summer or at the end of last school year. Non-certified staff, an increase there, and then you'll see the other drivers as you go along. Okay. The private outplacements, what I wanted to share with you on this slide is the fact that these are significant drivers. As you saw, we have less students. We have 48 students who are identified for outplacements, private outplacements, but the cost is actually higher, well over $500,000 higher this year than last year. So we have less students and we have a greater cost for those students in private placements. Public placements, we again see an increase. We have the same number of students projected, but an increase in expense. Our budget decreases. These are the top decreases. Outside other professionals, we've reduced some of our resources that we contract with other agencies and are bringing those in-house to save funds. So that goes back to that whole impact mapping and really looking at our staff in a 360 approach. We were able to see some reduction there, not lowering the quality of service for any student, but just actually increasing the value by utilizing our existing staff and their expertise in those areas. General education paras, we saw savings there. Certified waivers. The waiver, as many of you know, was built into several contracts in the union contracts. The teachers in particular That has seen a decrease over the last few years in terms of the payout on waivers because of the contractually negotiated settlement terms. So we're very appreciative of that, and that continues to offer us some savings. The non-cert waivers also, the certified severance, there was a reduction, and then we see some other reductions along the way. What we wanted to do this year, my third year here, I met with a group of business leaders and I invited them in to look at our budget and said, tell me what I can do differently. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? Help me out. And they came in and they looked at the budget and they gave us some advice, and they really didn't have a lot to say about how much we were spending, but they shared some ways of looking at things a little differently. So I felt it was time to do that again. So we brought in some business people. Dominic, our business manager, was there, as well as his administrative assistant, Tony Hale. And again, they were very thoughtful. They said, in terms of what you budget, we don't see a problem with what you're budgeting or how you're budgeting, but we'd like to help you with one piece of your message that you might want to share with the community this year that's a little different than you've shared in the past. So what they talked about were uncontrollable costs. In business, you have uncontrollable costs. In education, we have uncontrollable costs as well. So what we tried to do over the next several slides, and I'm not going to read them all to you, is we tried to share with you just some of the uncontrollable costs. Costs that we cannot have our school system run on an annual basis, open and operate successfully without having to expend. And I think it does paint a picture as to some of the challenges that we are faced with in terms of the financial landscape. So these are all of our special education uncontrollable costs. And you can see a lot of it is dealing with the public and private tuition, transportation, services. We also have personnel uncontrollable costs. We have the team program, the teacher evaluation, or the mentoring program rather, for new teachers that's been cut by the state, but the cost has been transferred to the town. Licenses and licensure in terms of different licenses that we're required to keep with certain members of our staff. Vaccinations, physicals that we have to do contractually, medical advisor, statutory requirement, policy review. There's not a year that does not go by without several state statutes that require us to do significant review of our policy. And then just the cost of going into negotiations with 9 different unions. We also have our uncontrollable costs in the area of police coverage at sporting events, ambulance services, CPR, first aid certification, lifeguards. Again, not that we're suggesting that we don't want to offer any of these. We absolutely understand why, but they are costs that do not necessarily add. They're not an additive in the sense that we're expanding our services for students. We're maintaining them, but we're required to upkeep these. In addition, there's one that's near and dear to, I know, Ms. Latour's heart and mine, the chemical hygiene contract. We're required to have a chemical hygiene contract. It's almost $13,000 a year. We understand it. We certainly are not suggesting that we don't want to follow any rules or regulations, but it's an added cost. When you look at technology, you have your student management system. You have to have one because you have to submit everything electronically to the state to get what money we do get from the state. So it's an uncontrollable cost. Computers for teachers, technically it is another uncontrollable cost because they have so many responsibilities now that require that technology in their hands, and technology that's up to date so they can do the work that the state or we're asking them to do. As well as student devices to take the testing. All the testing is electronic. It's hard to not have technology in your schools and be able to administer these tests. Now we did, fortunately, because of Ms. Veyu, we did receive a few technology grants to help subsidize these expenditures, but there's the continuing costs. Those are one-time grants. These are the continuing ongoing costs. And then you could see the rest of them here: nursing software, food services, the Connecticut Education Network that we have to pay for internet services, and then phones. These are all the operation costs. Again, I know some of these might sound funny for us to put on here, but it's all of the different inspections, all of those costs that, again, any business, any restaurant, any type of facility, we know everybody's responsible for these, but I think sometimes they might not be as evident to people who look at a school district's budget. And unemployment is becoming a real challenge. I have to say, we were just talking about that this afternoon, that it's one of those challenges where I think it's where there has to be some change. And I know that we talked about this in the mayor's office with other department heads a couple of weeks ago and some representatives from the state and Senator Fasano, that it's just the law has become prohibitive, not just for public enterprise, but also private. And it's really become a challenge. Again, there's Medicare, Social Security, the audit that we're required to do under state law, nursing for parochial schools, food service pension, food service training, and so on and so forth. So that is nearly $28 million of our budget, those uncontrollable costs. And I would have to say that that's conservative because we really were trying not to sell the story, but it's approximately 28% of our overall budget request. When we have $102 million, it's approximately 27% of our overall request. So just, again, another framing piece of information for everyone. So as we move forward, the sustained services, projected sustained services for the next few years, we build in some assumptions. We did lower the benefit assumption because of trend. In the past, we had been assuming 10%. We haven't seen 10%, knock on wood, so we're looking at the trend at 5%. But again, this is not what you're submitting to the mayor. This is for your own edification and information moving forward. So if we look at our sustained plus strategic plan, what we'd be recommending this year is a 3.48% increase. In 1920 is a 6.73, and then it drops down to a 1.35 as you move out, and that's because there's a significant reduction in the strategic plan. So the strategic plan, those of you who have been here with us for the last 8 years, because this is our 8th strategic plan budget, we try to engage as many stakeholders in the vision as possible. We did a reimagining workshop, as many people know, and many people in this room participated in this summer for 6-12 education. We try to do that on a regular basis with different levels of education. 2 years ago, we worked with pre-K 5 parents on a similar activity to really reinvigorate, to revitalize, to make sure that the document represents the state of the town and the state of the needs of the students that we're presently working with, and the climate in which we're living. So we have the 5 areas, again, community outreach partnerships, curriculum instruction, district climate, facilities and maintenance, and technology. They haven't changed, they're the same ones, and they've been working well. So we look at the 3 years. So when we look through this, and I'm not going to read this through with you, but we just said if you're at home and you want to go to our website tomorrow, each section of the budget has the goal, or the area of the strategic plan, the goal, and then the potential allocation of funds based on need or request, and then it's 3 years. So this particular goal, all of it was moved over to Ms. Latour's budget, so there's nothing to speak of in this particular area. As we look here, when we look at the second goal, which is students, parents, and families in the community will have access to pertinent information on a regular basis. We're just continuing to look at the Family Resource Center concept. I do want to say that we're very proud that we're going to be having our second free Family Resource engagement event. I had to remember the second E, that we are working on in collaboration with Youth and Social Services, YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, SCOW, and the Public Library, as well as WeCare. We knew that this was something we couldn't fund in our budget or by the town, so we took the initiative, pulled the constituents together, and like I said earlier, everybody was willing to come to the table. So we have 2 events planned each month this year at no charge for families and at no charge to the district. So again, curriculum instruction, these areas, because there were some areas that really stood out, and I'll just go over the goal highlights in each of these areas. I'm not going to read through each page. But goal 1, we are looking to increase instructional coaches. We've talked about this for a few years. Most recently with our discussion with the union, the instructional coaches have come up at the elementary level as a resource that we're really beginning to leverage more and more, and we see that as something that we want to continue to explore as a district with our staff. Excuse me. Next one is transition both science and world language curriculum resource teachers to administrators. This is something we've talked about for several years because of the enrollment, because of the evaluation requirements that were reestablished a few years back. We've been trying to help in reducing the amount of responsibility for the administrators in terms of the number of staff that they had to supervise through an evaluation process to help make those evaluations as meaningful as possible for the educators that they were working with collaboratively. There's a tremendous amount of collaboration, but also we see these areas as 2 areas where, especially with next-gen science standards, that is the next level of progression in terms of testing nationally, and then world language, all of the resources that we see with our EL population growing, our bilingual population growing, and also our programming at the high schools and middle schools and elementary school for that matter. The next thing you'll see is established maker spaces at the high schools. We have maker spaces or makerspace materials available at our 3-5 schools. We have them at both middle schools, and again, we'd like to move in the high school arena. And this number 6, this could go in facilities, it could go in curriculum. We wanted to go somewhere, but really to look at, based on the work that we did this summer with over 125 parents, students, teachers, administrators, community members, board members, anyone who was willing and wanted to come and talk, it came up that we really do need to investigate conducting a facility study on our 6-12 buildings, so our 2 middle schools and high schools. So we're recommending that we move forward with that study, or that we recommend that study to be conducted. It was part of the plan of conservation and development, and so we do want to at least bring it forward so that if it's not the board that would conduct the study, or I shouldn't say conduct it, would pay for the study, that it does get put into some budget so that we can go out, we could bid it to an outside impartial consultant to look not only at the structure, but also look at the programming. And that's why when we came back and forth, and we went back and forth on where does it go in the strategic plan, at first it was in the facilities, and then we moved it to curriculum instruction, because we really don't want it to be just about the bricks and mortar. It has to be about the program. It has to be about the instruction that we plan to offer students in grades 6 through 12. So that's why, and we can move it anywhere anybody wants, but that's where we fell out on this conversation, was we felt it was about instruction. And so we want to just continue that conversation with the board, as well as hopefully with the council and the mayor. So the next pages, and I'm just going to go through these, not because I'm trying to ignore them, but this is the detail that explains the 3-year strategic plan budget in the area of curriculum. When we get to district climate, we are looking to employ and add 3 mental health professionals, most likely social workers, for elementary schools. We see that there is a tremendous, and I know that nobody wants to add staff to any budget, I get it, but the challenge is that we have a tremendous need. As you all know, as a board, we're opening up a behavioral program, K2, next month, and that is because we have students coming to us with extreme needs that we just feel and we know that we need to support. And we need to make sure we're supporting them with the appropriate resources and really helping them develop the skills they need in order to be part of our community of learners. So the mental health professionals at the elementary level are so needed because of the fact that we have so many students that are either have experienced trauma, have experienced emotional issues that they're coming to us with, that we have to help them. They're not available to learn necessarily without having the support. So we're working very hard. We actually are very excited because we are part of a grant, a CBITS grant with Child Guidance, We were asked to participate. They're actually in Meriden, and they came to Wallingford. And we're looking to establish some trauma groups for students at all levels that would be conducted by social workers from Child Guidance, free of charge to the school district, free of charge for families. And so we're in the final stages of just finalizing our agreement for our attorneys to make sure that we cover everybody's rights, and we follow all of the FERPA guidelines because we're very meticulous in that area. But we're very excited about this opportunity. And actually, when I put it out to the administrators, every single school administrator volunteered for their school to be part of this. So all 12 schools, we're not sure if we'll be able to impact all of them this year, but we're looking into next year to providing those services at no cost to the district. But that would not be, could not take the place of what we're requesting here. It would be in addition to what we're requesting here. We've had asked in the past for multiple school resource officers. We said, okay, let's take a step back. Let's ask for one. I know the chief has put into his budget, or he's considering putting additional staff in his budget. He and I work very collaboratively together. I know he supports us every way he can right now. We have officers who do work with our schools, but we'd like to really have somebody dedicated to the schools. This officer would work across the 2 high schools the first year. The idea would be adding 2 the following year, so each high school would have one, and then the third one would go across the middle schools, and then the last year, a 4th one for both middle schools. So again, these pages highlight those areas. Facilities, excuse me. Facilities, the items valued at over $15,000 is really what the mayor considers for bonding. And have to have a life expectancy of nearly or at least 20 years. This document, I'm not going to go through all of it, but I have to say, again, with a debt of gratitude for the mayor for his willingness over the last 3 years to sit down with myself, Mark Deptula, our board chair, Roxanne, and sit down with Jim Bowes and go through our needs and actually go through line item by line item by line item and say, okay, I could support this, I can't support this at this time. And this is what this document represents, are the items that are either in the pipeline to be done, and we have whether or not they're completed or not completed, and then ones that have been recommended this year. There's a lot of work on here to be done. The challenge that we often have, and the board knows this, is that it's making certain that we are able to go through all the appropriate steps of the purchasing process and the procurement process. And we do follow those meticulously, but there's a tremendous amount of stages. So that's why some of the work, especially larger projects, are a little prolonged in terms of their execution. But as you know, we're moving forward with a windows project at the elementary school. We have a lighting project at the high schools and the middle schools. So work is being done. There's just a lot of work to be done. I do want to say that this particular year when we met with the mayor, we brought up 2 issues, and if Mark were here, he would share these, and he might still in one of our workshops. You'll see in some of our strategic plan budgets that things keep getting pushed out, and there's issues like bathrooms and ADA compliance, especially at Sheehan. The challenge is that once you start looking at the bathroom, there's an electrical room or there's something that's next to it that causes you to look at that space, which causes you to look at another space, which causes you to look at another space. The mayor began really to hear that this year, and at some point, and that's why the facility study is so important to do first, we need to figure out what we're doing with the buildings first, and then and I'm just using Sheehan as an example, if we stay with the 2 high school structure, that might not just be a bathroom replacement, that might be a larger $3 million, $4 million larger project. Because once you open one thing, it's kind of, if you ever done renovation on an old house, or any house for that matter, it's always another $1,000. It's always another this, that, or the other. So we're moving very cautiously. We don't want to throw money away and then do a project and have to tear it up 2 years later. So I know that some people get frustrated when they see things not done, but there is a deliberate path that we have to take in order to get the most for the money that we have at the time. So we are being very cautious there. Another area of concern for all of us, especially Ms. Klimaszewski and her staff, are the preschool portables at the integrated preschool at Cook Hill. Those are well over 20 years old. Portables, as most of you may know, are supposed to last between maybe 10 years the most. We're at a point where we have to make a decision. We had a very, very thoughtful conversation with the mayor also. We are pulling together some numbers to decide what we want to do there. We have looked at trying to take the integrated preschool program and integrate it into the 4 pre-K2 schools. However, there's not the space because many students in the integrated program have also additional services that require additional spaces. And also we believe, and we're looking at this more closely, an added expense due to the additional personnel that would be needed, because when they're in a larger group, you potentially, in one place, you can offer services in a more efficient manner than disaggregating those students across 4 schools. Because if it's speech language, that's one thing, but if it's occupational therapy or physical therapy, that lends itself to more of a nuanced need and specific need, and it makes it more challenging. So we are looking at that, but I just wanted to mention those 2 things because I know they came up in board questions. And believe me, they're on our minds. It's just, again, in a perfect world, we would have an early childhood center, and we put that all together, and I think it'd probably be the most efficient approach to do this. However, you're talking, again, a building project, and I wouldn't even want to venture a guess what that cost would be. So the rest of that's the capital items that we share with the mayor. In terms of our other items from the maintenance, you could just read these. There's a lot of safety. We're looking at ceiling fans, lighting, universal key system for some of our schools, retail CAF, and then a plow truck with sander. In terms of capital for non-bonding, so these were less than 15 to 20,000, would not have a life expectancy of 20 years. These are some of those items. I also want to say somebody has asked me recently, actually just this weekend, I was at an event in town, and somebody said, well, why isn't paving, putting new paving down in a school parking lot a bondable topic? And we've talked to the mayor about this, and it's most often we're just resurfacing, and resurfacing doesn't necessarily last 20 years or even 15 years. Many times it's 5 to 10. You try to squeak that out. So that's where we have that conversation, is that it's not, because it's most often resurfacing, that it's not a bondable item. If we're looking to go all the way down and creating a new base, maybe grinding the initial base and establishing a new base and then going from there, then we've had conversations about that. That might be capital. So we look at some of these other items. As I said, sidewalk and recurbing, repairing parking lots, that comes off and as a conversation. Again, safe, secure learning environment. I just want to say, add expansion joints to Lyman Hall. This is not a safety issue where there's imminent danger or concern. It's just, again, looking at long-term. I knew when I typed that up there, I didn't want anybody to be concerned, but it's just an item that Mark has looked at in his department and with others. Versatrans, MyStop software is a software that allows parents to monitor where the bus is for their own child, not for every child, but for their own child. So in the event that they're running late, or the bus is running late, or the parent is running late, it's a safety piece. It was something that was recommended last year through a variety of means in the district, through PTACs and through other organizations. Furniture, there's just, again, it's like anything else. The district is a large district. Furniture doesn't always, actually up until the last 3 years, we have never really had a replacement plan for furniture. Mark and his staff had put one in definitely with the help of the administrators. This is a lot of administrative support in this area on pulling together the lists, and we're chipping away at it. But we're not, some of it's because of new staff, or just because the furniture is old. We do have a furniture location where people could go and, it's kind of like a scratch dent, and, you can take whatever you want. If you need it, we start there first. We don't automatically go to buy. We look at, okay, let's repurpose. We do a lot of repurposing of furniture, but at some point you get to, it's seen better days. And it's not safe, and that's another concern that we get from our risk manager, that we don't want to put somebody have a piece of furniture that potentially could be harmful to a student or an employee. So when you look at our facilities, as I mentioned earlier, on the bottom row, it talks about the allocated phases of work and when they're meant to commence. So we're requesting for 18-19 anticipated requests for work to commence in 19-20. We're requesting 13.8 million. And then you could see moving forward. Last but not least, technology. You could imagine we're looking at the Chromebooks, teacher laptops, projection systems, the middle school. They received, many of the classrooms had smart boards from many years ago. They've served us well. They still do in many instances. But the amount of effort it takes to repair or replace a light bulb or change something really is not value added to the process. And many of them, again, have seen better days, shall we say. So we want to look at doing something with projection systems at the middle schools. Obviously, updating servers is required, because we have to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to keep our data and our software safe. And then digital record storage. This came out of an efficiency activity we did. We collect a lot of paper in school districts. We have a lot of files that are still paper files. We would like to begin to migrate that paper to electronic files for two reasons. Number one, it's much more efficient to gather that information if requested on a momentary basis. We've had requests for graduation records from people who graduated many years ago, and to have to go to the lower depths of a building to find them, which we do. I mean, our clerical staff is right on it. They know where it is, but it's not necessarily the best use of their time. Also, it's just the sheer space, and in some instances, we're using classroom space to store these documents that potentially could allow us to consolidate some other opportunities. So when we look at some of our technology, you could see this, and I know Karen will go into this more when we go over our strategic plan, but we have made some positive strides. However, again, we're kind of moving in the direction that we need to keep the cycle going. So we really want to make sure that we keep the cycle going, and I do have to credit the board for making sure that this was something that we did not lose track of. So we have the staff laptops. The last one was the students. Computer labs, what you'll see here is that, yes, we're going to see more that are, it's interesting because we don't have as many of the traditional computer labs. We have more of the Chromebook carts. We still do have a computer lab, a traditional computer lab at each of the elementary schools. So those are the ones that we're trying to really keep up with. But the middle school and high schools, we see less. We do have a lab, but they're not as they're used. But the Chromebooks are really getting the use, the greater use, because they're a little bit easier than having to bring your class to another room and make those transitions with students. It's easier to have the cart in the room. Students take it right out. And I have to say, our teachers, to their credit, they've done a great job, because the worst thing you could do is get that cart and nothing's charged, and your whole lesson is based on that cart. I know there's sometimes that will happen because people do make mistakes, but I think there is a sense of ownership that people have definitely employed, and I think the students get it too. And I've witnessed teachers at middle school and high school say, well, if you forget to plug it in, then that's tomorrow. I don't know what you're going to do. So it's that natural consequence. But I think the staff is working phenomenally well together on this. I think they see the value in the resource, and I really do appreciate their efforts in that. So these are technology areas. So what does this all finally mean? I'll cut to the chase here. It's a little easier. So we have sustained services at 1.99. The strategic plan is a 1.49. And so the overall, if we combine them, the combined request is a 3.48. Oops. In terms of what we're going to continue to do, as I mentioned earlier, insurance, special education, we look at our monthly projections. As you know, grant projections, grant allocations. We'll be anxiously awaiting any information from the state as to where they see themselves there. I know I sit on another board, the Special Ed Resource Center board, and I know they're concerned about the state funding and the commitment for funds for next year. So I think we all are in the same boat there. We did offer in the PowerPoint, as we did for the board, information about when we look at the strategic plan and all those areas that the full number, that percentage that we were going to add, the almost 1.5%, what we would look at is we decided to prioritize, and this was through conversation with central office, looking at the priorities. So you'll see that, again, there's the running tally here in terms of the top priorities, which are the top 33, which brings us to approximately a 3.37. So next step in the process, we have all of our workshops, which again will message out to everyone continually over the next few weeks. We've already done that before tonight. March 1st, the board has to have a budget approved by its February board meeting. We're hoping to again reconvene with the town council. We've tried to conduct the potluck, or at least get them out another night prior to their meeting. I shouldn't say another night, prior to a scheduled meeting, so it's the same night, to have them come. And we do appreciate counselors that are in the audience tonight. I truly appreciate that. That's very meaningful to us, and we really do appreciate that. Establishment of mayor's recommendation. It's April 1st. We always joke about that, but that's the day he calls all of you. He calls me. And we have a conversation. We do a presentation to Wallingford citizens in April, town council in here in April, and then the final town council approval and final Board of Ed approval comes in June. I do go to talk to the senior citizens. I go at lunchtime, and then I also go to the men's group for breakfast in the morning to answer questions and have them share any information they have. It's been one of the best things that I've done. They're so eager. Everybody's so eager to have a conversation, and I truly appreciate that. Just finally, we do offer in the budget book and also online some references for the codes. But again, I appreciate your attention, and we'll anxiously await conversation come Wednesday night.
Okay. I guess then at this point, are you pretty comfortable, Dr. Menzo, leaving the budget discussion at this point? And I want to make sure board members are okay. Obviously, Wednesday, just to reiterate, we meet at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, totally dedicated to budget discussion. So if there's anybody in the public that wants to come ask any questions, certainly you're welcome. And that's at 6 p.m. at our Board of Education offices.
There were budget books outside, I think, on the table too. So
people,
if you didn't get one, we'll have more on Wednesday.
yeah, perfect. Thank you.
We'll get more.
Okay, so with that, again, I want to take a second though, because I'm looking over to my right side here, and those are all administrators. So I know all of you folks have so many commitments with your own schools in the district. So I just want to say on behalf of the board, thank you for being here tonight. And I want to also reiterate Dr. Menzo's comments. I know what went into making this budget was a complete collaborative effort from central office staff here, as well as all our building administrators. We couldn't get to this, to a 1.99, without everybody's serious commitment to looking at how we can repurpose, redo, what's important, what can we change, what can't we, having those important conversations. So I thank you very, very much for the commitment all of you make to Wallingford and our students. So we appreciate that. So with that, if I can get a motion to go into executive session for discussion of approval of leave of absence, acceptance of retirement, discussion of candidate for high school coaching position, and discussion of confidential attorney-client privileged memo regarding proposed agreement with Meriden Public Schools regarding VOAG program.
Second.
I have a first and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We're in executive session. We are back. Can I get a motion to come out of executive session? So moved. Second. I have a first and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion carries, and we're back in regular session. Our next agenda item is our consent agenda, and we have a unique situation because we have 4 new board members, as I indicated in the beginning of the meeting. So we have items 7.1 and 7.2 reflect approval for minutes from meetings that took place in December. So I'm going to separate that out, so only prior board members that were sitting in the prior term, I will ask for a vote on that, and then I'll do a second consent agenda with the remaining items, if that makes sense. So if I can get a motion to accept consent agenda items 7.1 and 7.2.
I make a motion to accept consent agendas 7.1 and 7.2.
Second.
I have a first and second. Is there any discussion? So at this point, I'm just asking for board members that were sitting on the board from last year to vote on this. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you. Can I get a motion to accept consent agenda items 7.3 through 7.29?
I make a motion to accept consent agenda 7.3 to 7.29.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We have item 8, no items removed from the consent agenda. Item 9, correspondence. Mr. Reynolds?
Yes, I have a couple of thank you notes. We have one from the school librarian at Moses Y, and hopefully I got the last name right, Poirier. And she is thanking us for a donation that we had made. Well, we did it for all the board members, but she wanted to single out an outgoing, she's left the board, Amanda Dorr. We have another thank you note from Jacqueline Gentry. She's associate principal at Rhodes School. The district had made a donation to her school for helping students out that were affected by Hurricane Harvey. And then we have, we also have, again, actually another thank you, but it was a floral arrangement that we had sent to the family, the Chipakos family, for the support of their daughter Susan. And then we have one more. This was a donation from the Toyota Oakdale Theater. It was made to the Wallingford Public Schools, specifically the music departments of Lyman Hall and Mark T. Sheehan, and it was in the amount of $500.
Perfect, thank you.
May I just,
Please.
I don't mean to make a correction, but it's kind of a sensitive one. the family thank you was actually for a staff member who passed.
Okay.
Sue Chapokis was one of our para-educators at Moses Y Beach who died earlier this year. So I just wanted to, I don't mean to correct,
No, it's fine.
she was
Thank
a
you.
dear member of our community and
Huge
just
loss.
a wonderful person and a huge loss. And we're still feeling it. I know the family at Moses Y is still feeling that loss.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10 are committee reports. We're going to start with ACES, which normally Mrs. Levac is the rep but couldn't make it. So Mrs. Raccio attended. If you want to just give us a kind of a brief overview. And you gave a really nice detailed report for the board members in our packet, but for TV Land, if you want to share.
Sure, thank you. The ACES Governing Board met on January 11th, 2018. The Commissioner of Education, Dr. Diana Wenzel, was in attendance to provide an update from the State Department of Education. Dr. Wenzel shared a handout summarizing 2018 legislation proposed to the General Assembly, which is attached. In addition, Dr. Wenzel discussed educational standards for students who have been expelled. After consultation with an alternative education working group and in conjunction with CAVE and CAPS, the State Department of Education will be providing a best practice guide to local education agencies this spring. Discussion centered on the need to rethink how to keep expelled students on track to re-enter local educational associations with their peers. Re-entry at critical points in time, such as the beginning of a semester as opposed to a set number of days of expulsion, was suggested. She also discussed the state will be revising the data collected around expulsions, including the type of education provided during the expulsion. The expelled student population in the state was over 700, and 44% of this population was receiving no education during the expulsion, which could be due to parent refusal. Moving forward, tutoring will be reviewed to determine if it meets the requirements of classroom instruction. The overall goal is to reduce expulsions and avoid disengagement in order to get students back on track. An ACES representative from Meriden also inquired about additional funding for students displaced from Puerto Rico as they estimate costs of over $1 million for this new group of students. The Commissioner advised the state is seeking federal assistance and nothing has been finalized at the time of the meeting. Additionally, the Commissioner commented that teachers who have been displaced from Puerto Rico are recognized as certified teachers in the state and can be hired without delay. At the present time, there have been more inquiries from teachers seeking employment than LEAs with openings. The ACES Executive Director provided his update, including ACES is seeking a member to join the Finance Committee due to a recent resignation. The Director also discussed the upcoming pilot for a collaborative, regionalized, out-of-district transportation service for special education placement sites which are not ACES locations. At present, between 5 and 8 districts have approached their boards to discuss participation. The pilot is scheduled to begin opening day of the 2018-19 school year. Approval was taken to adopt the ACES revised mission, vision, and tagline. The December fiscal report, human resources report, and Head Start reports were also approved. The ACES Executive Director provided a technology update, including a reorganization of the department. ACES will also be moving to a one-to-one Chromebook assignment beginning in the 6th grade at the magnet schools. This will include a $50 one-time breakage replacement fee under a self-insured plan. Students will own their Chromebooks at the end of 8th grade. Additionally, ACES will be implementing a technology limit policy. It was decided some employees who have currently up to 4 ACES-issued devices, such as an office desktop, a home desktop, a laptop, and an iPad, will be asked to reduce their devices. The board then entered executive session for purposes of discussing pending negotiations.
Okay, thank you very much. Wintergreen Magnet, Tammy, you're up again. Was there a meeting?
The end of this month is the first meeting that I go
Okay.
to. I don't know if there was one.
I don't think there was one in
Okay,
December.
that makes sense, okay. Thank you for that. School to Career Business Think Tank, Dr. Menzo, you had a meeting like a couple weeks ago, didn't you?
There was a meeting in December. This month, there was not a meeting.
Okay, all right.
We invited the business think tank members as well as board members. You received an invitation to this Operation STEM launch, which is next Thursday, February 1st at 10 a.m. In our Board of Ed conference room. So we are hopeful. We have heard back from a lot of our business think tank members that they're planning to attend or sending a representative. So that's going to be the next time that we meet with those individuals.
Perfect, thank
And
you.
I'll explain more about this later.
That's fine, yeah, no problem there. PTAC update, I don't know if, did you?
The meeting is tomorrow night.
Okay, that's right, yep, my son's birthday. Plan of Conservation Development, Pat?
Yeah, meeting occurred November 30th, 2017. We had representatives from the following groups: Town Council, Planning and Zoning, Wallingford Inc., Land Trust, PUC, SCOW, EDC, and the BOE. I want to point out, because I haven't really had a chance to report anything, that because I have some people that have asked me about what's our function, and I want to point out that we are not a governing body. What we will be charged with are certain topics and kind of in compliance with what the state wants us to do, and then we just make recommendations to the respective group or agency. Topics discussed: in-town parking, possibly more options and flexibility for business owners, maybe the possible need for a parking authority, the use of Winning Kaplan property, energy, conversation, water usage, promoting business in town. I would like to point out, because it was brought up by a town resident, that although we are told, and I think there was a recent article on how many new businesses move into Connecticut, I don't think it's ever really made public on businesses that leave, and specifically why are they leaving. So we thought that was a good, maybe do an exit type interview and, find out why they're leaving Wallingford. Maybe we can keep them, in town. Let's see, open space, use of town facilities, specific like the old, an example would be like the old train station. Things relating to Board of Ed, increasing the number of school gardens, also using locally grown produce in school cafeterias. And then I also compiled an inventory of athletic fields and who is responsible for maintenance and scheduling. Is it the school district or is it Parks and Rec? And that's it.
I just have a question. In your discussion of parking in downtown, is there ever any consideration of charging? Like literally, nowadays too, the way it's done is, it's all pretty easy.
That wasn't brought up, but I can bring it up.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not a ton of revenue source, but it could be.
I think the kind of the overlying theme or of that was trying to organize it, to get the most use out of our parking areas.
Gotcha. Thanks. Food Service Strategic Plan Committee, Mr. Mencher.
Yes.
How are you?
We met last week and we reviewed our top 5 goals, where we're at.
Could you make sure you speak into the mic, Dave, so everybody can hear? Thanks.
Last week we met as a group and we reviewed our top 5 goals and strategic plans, and I followed up with the group on where we're at. And we talked briefly about our next goal of implementing a breakfast program for the district in the elementary and middle school sector. And put some goals into that, and I'll be updating the strategic plan and sending it back out to the group. And we'll follow up with our next meeting next month.
Perfect, thank you. We tend to put these next two together, stage lighting and renovation updates with the 4 school window replacement. I know Mr. Deptula couldn't be here, but I don't know if you have an update or...
We talk about this every central office meeting.
Yeah.
The bids are in the works with the town hall, so we're continuing to move forward with both of those.
Good, thanks. Item 11, old business. I do not believe we have any. Item 12, instructional committee. Mrs. Corso, you're up.
Thank you. Item 12.1, a mastery-based learning update, either Dr. Menzo or Ms. Latour.
Yes, last week there were our level meetings for middle school and high school, at which time we continued to talk about the timeline. We talked about recent information we received from the teachers, the mastery-based learning committees at the elementary level, middle school, and high school, at the faculty meetings. The recent faculty meetings offered some time for the teachers to share some feedback as to where they were in terms of their readiness and what needs they had. So that data is being compiled, and that's going to come back to the committees to chart a course for professional development, next steps, and planning from there. Both I was able to attend the meetings. Ms. Latour takes some of the meetings we divide and conquer, and so that was the agenda at the meetings that we both attended.
Great, thank you. Next item on our agenda, approval of acceptance of a leave of absence. So I make a motion that a leave of absence for Chelsea Paletta be approved without pay in accordance with the provision of the current teacher's contract from March 7th, 2018 through April 25th, 2018.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next, 12.3, I make a motion that the Board of Ed accept with regret the retirement of Marjorie Martin, effective March 31st, 2018.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And lastly, approval of a candidate to a high school coaching position. I make a motion that the Board of Ed accept the appointment of the following candidate to a coaching position, Lyman Hall Girls Softball, Stephanie Lovato Berghorn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
And we don't have any possible action concerning the agreement with the Meriden Public Schools, so that's no action required. Thank you, Erin. Item 13, operations, we obviously covered with the budget overview. Item 14, new business, I don't believe we have any. Now, item 15, administration report. You are up, Dr. Menzo.
Thank you. I just again want to remind everyone of our budget meetings that we have. We have one this Wednesday, one next Monday, one the following Wednesday, and then the following week again. Hopefully, people feel that they could come to those meetings, ask questions, and be part of the process. I would also again reiterate that an email will be going out to families tomorrow with a survey as well as all staff. Please offer your feedback. We do go through those as I did last year. I will pull together those questions that might have been presented by families, and I put them in a format for the board and start off the meeting on Monday, which would be the 29th, with the answers to those questions. So again, we really value your input. We do believe that we've had a lot of hard work committed to this already, but we know that we have a long road ahead of us. So I do want to just reiterate that. This Thursday night at 6 o'clock at Lyman Hall, there'll be a presentation by the author, Ms. Shoemaker. She wrote the book, Don't Press Send. This is part of the Eat, Play, and Plug initiative, where it helps offer families some proactive opportunities and alternatives to having students always have screen time, and even themselves as adults have screen time, be it on a phone or a tablet, whatever it may be. Ms. Shoemaker is going to be speaking to all of our 3-5 students at all 4 schools, half of them on Thursday, half of them on Friday, and then the evening on Thursday is for parents at Lyman Hall.
Could you repeat what she's going to be talking about?
Her book is called Don't Press Send, and it's about basically trying to give parents and families helpful hints on how to navigate the world of technology. So email, as well as text messaging, internet safety, but also giving a lens, a kind of a view into even ourselves as adults, how we're the models oftentimes for our children. So, many times I'm sure you've been out where you now see families of 4 with all their devices out and nobody's talking at the dinner table. And that's not modeling necessarily for the children. So she'll talk a little bit about that. She talks about, contracts that, potentially offer some ideas that if you do provide your children with these devices, maybe there's some contract that you want to establish with your child to offer them some guidance. It's not about the fact that we want to say that they should never be used or they're not good, because we know how that is. When you're told something is good, you want it more, as a child especially. So there's that balance, but we're very pleased to have her come and be able to speak to parents and to our students. So
What is that again?
Thursday at Lyman Hall at 6 o'clock. We also have, I just want to fast forward because we don't have a board meeting until this has already occurred, or actually it's the day after, so I will talk about it in February. But Credit for Life, if you're interested in volunteering, Credit for Life, and some of you have volunteered in the past, is on February 27th. It's a Tuesday. It'll be at the Park and Rec like we had last year, which is a great location. We could not be more pleased with that location. We had a meeting today of our Hubcap Education Committee. We're really doing great with volunteers, but there is, if you would like to volunteer, we have an orientation that'll be on February 22nd. But if you're interested, just shoot me an email and we'll get you on the list.
What time is the training on the 22nd?
There's two sessions. One's going to be at 8:30 in the morning and the other one is going to be at noon. But again, just make sure you send me an email and I'll make sure you get the invite so that we have you on our list.
If you've already...
Did you already get a name then?
Yeah, I already did
Yep,
mine,
then
so
just
you don't want it again,
Okay.
do you? I mean,
No,
I worked
no,
with Jane
no, as
Graves.
long as you got Jane's-
Jane sent one out, okay.
That's
Just want to make
good.
sure.
But we're really working on, we've made some changes based on parent feedback. I have to say, the career counselors, Jane and Kim, both get such a tremendous amount of responses from parents the day after. We send the email out, and parents, it's really probably one of the best return rates because we get in such good information. So a lot more on credit scores this year we're going to be talking about with students. They're going to be assigned financial advisors this year. So we always try to tweak it a little bit, but it's become such a well-oiled mechanism right now. It's really going well. The added thing, though, is on March 6th at 6 o'clock, and we're going to be offering potentially two sessions, 6 and then a 7, for parents to participate and see what their children went through in Credit for Life. So it's adults only. We're going to have some students volunteer to kind of help us out with this, but we want the parents to understand what we had their children experience in the Credit for Life program themselves.
When is, what day,
March
what time?
6th.
Yeah, what time do we know?
6 o'clock.
And is that at?
Hubcap.
Oh,
That's at Hubcap. So it's the first time we're going to be having limited enrollment because we don't know how many people to expect, but it's going to be part of the survey that goes out immediately following Credit for Life. Would you like to participate and learn more? We're looking to have, as I said, ideally 2 sessions. We're looking at probably 15 families or 15 families represented at each session. We're trying to keep it small so that we have enough space, but also that it's meaningful. So we'll have banks there and really try to help them see the experience through their eyes of their children. So we're pretty excited about that. The last thing I just want to mention, as I mentioned earlier, we are having a special business think tank meeting next Thursday. Actually, there's 2 things I'll mention, but I'll start with next Thursday. You received information in your board. I sent you out an email about Operation STEM Town. It's an opportunity that we're looking to really kind of wrap our arms around the concept of, and it goes back to exactly what Pat was saying earlier about why businesses are leaving our town, our state. You know, is there enough employment opportunity for them to get enough employees, shall I say? So what we're trying to do, and I know Tim Ryan, who's very, very involved with the school system through the Economic Development Commission, we've been working together on trying to raise awareness in the area of STEM fields and the need to make sure that we offer our children enough exposure, starting at the earlier grades as possible, and then make sure our programming at the middle school and high school supports their interest, their level of interest. So this is a rather large initiative, but we have great, definitely great response from YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, SCOW, the Youth and Social Services, the town hall staff, as well as our staff, or the representatives that are from our high schools, our counseling staff. So we're getting everybody together, and we're going to kind of wrap our minds around what does this concept mean for Wallingford. And we also are going to share a potential resource that we could put in the hands of all of our 4th through 8th graders as an enrichment opportunity. It's not part of the curriculum. It's an enrichment opportunity that we believe we can embed within the school day, but also give them access to on the weekends, on those snow days, those dreaded snow days, when you want to do an activity as a family. This could lend that resource to families that might not have the normal, they might have not have those resources or not know where to go to find good resources. So we're very excited about this opportunity. There's one other town in the state that actually I'll be meeting with tomorrow, who's moving in the same direction. So I'll have their feedback to bring to this discussion.
And what time is that on the 1st?
It's I believe it's at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. At Board of Ed?
Yes. Yeah, and I'll send it out in my Friday reminder to all of you also. The other thing that I just want to mention, this Thursday, we do have about 6 community colleges coming to meet with our counseling staff, our career technical education coordinator, as well as Carrie, myself, and Meriden, because we collaborated with them, and the State Department of Education representative for technical education, career technical education, to talk a little bit about those articulation agreements that we had mentioned in the past, and about dual enrollment opportunities for our students that we believe there's not been a consistent approach on the part of some community colleges. So what we're trying to do is bring them into the same room. We're going to share with them our pathways, our clusters, our pathways, the courses that we presently are able to offer. And Meriden will be doing the same thing, so we're going to kind of workshop it and really try to listen to the community colleges to get a better understanding of how we can make certain our teachers are able to provide the coursework that then will transfer into credit that our students could acquire in high school prior to graduation. And it's something that we were able to do in the past. There were some changes that happened legislatively, and then I think there was potentially some misunderstanding in terms of how it should have been implemented. And now we want to bring the conversation back because we all believe our children probably need to have more access and should have more access, shall we say. So we're very excited. We got a good response. The state is sending 2 representatives as well. So that'll be this week on Thursday at Central Office. So thank you very much.
Thank you. A lot going on, as always. Okay, I'll wrap things up with announcements. And before I get into the announcements, we do have right now 3 budget meetings kind of as placeholders. And those dates are January 24th. That's Wednesday. They're all at 6 p.m. at our conference room. Monday, January 29th at 6 o'clock, and Wednesday, January 31st at 6 o'clock. Now, I'm sorry.
I apologize. When you're done, I forgot to, and Ms. Drosopoulos will be very disappointed if I don't go through the other donations she received for Cook's Table.
Yeah,
So
we
you
can do
go
that in a
first.
second. My question to you, Dr. Menzo, is if through our budget workshops, if we find we don't need, let's say, the January 31st date, how do you communicate that to make sure people are...
We do a mass emailing,
Okay.
and we also put it as a pop-up on our website.
Okay,
We
so you
tweet
get it out there.
Yes.
I mean, I don't want a short cycle. Obviously, if board members need the time, it's available.
And we also make sure that a cancellation is posted at Town Hall.
Okay.
Ms. Lavelle takes
And then
care of
also
that.
weather could be a
Yes.
factor too,
Correct.
obviously. So, okay, so those right now are our placeholders for budget. Monday, February 5th, we have an instruction committee meeting at 6:30, again at our board conference room. And then Monday, February 12th is operations, which would be another opportunity, if need be, to talk about budget if we still need that additional time. But the goal would be that February 12th meeting is really the last day that we want to approve our budget and bring it, really get consensus on the budget so we can bring it forward for total improvement for our February 26th meeting. Yes, Mr.
We
Ross?
typically get a lot of the public come to those meetings.
You know, it's hard to say. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I would say probably my guess would be that the 24th would be the most populated one if there's one, just because people realize, you know, we do get pretty efficient about getting through the budget, and we don't, I mean, I don't want a short cycle. Like I said, if we need those extra 2 nights, that's fine, they're there for us. But, I mean, it's hard to say, really.
And we publish and post and email blast out all the meetings from, this point forward on the budget. So everyone is kept abreast. And then once you approve the budget on what did you say, it was the 26th?
The 26th.
Once that is approved, then we send out another communication by level for families on how does it impact their child.
Okay.
So that goes out on that date also.
Good to know. So again, we've got all those dates. We're busy for January and February, as we all know. And then Monday, February 26th is our televised our meeting at the Robert F. Parisi Town Council Chambers, which starts at 6:30. And unless anybody else has, I'm sorry. Oh, Dr. Menzo, you did have, thank you.
Yeah,
already slipped my mind.
I apologize.
Oh my goodness, I'm like, oh.
I just want to make sure.
No, please do.
These
Thank
are
you.
just some additional donations to the Cook's Table for the culinary program at Lyman Hall. Wallingford Country Club, a donation of some produce that was very helpful. Erica Taveras, a donation of some produce also. Lyman Hall Athletics helped one of the events. They were able to provide some tickets to home games as part of a raffle to help raise some funds. Napoli Meats, 40 pounds of ground beef.
Wow.
We
40
thank
pounds
them.
of what?
Ground beef. Matthew Staber, I believe, another donation of some food for the Cook's Table. Michael's Trattoria, a donation of some food. Lyman Hall Maintenance Department, they wanted to thank them because actually the maintenance department donated $150 cash donation to the Cook's Table.
Nice.
So that was very kind. And then to Miss Amenta for her support through her program in the Ag Science for the culinary program and all the arrangements and the students' work that they did. And then Packy's Store over at Lyman Hall also for some support to the culinary program. So just wanted to make sure I share that because, again, it's just the students, and another reason is the students have really been working hard with getting the donations. We had a meeting at the beginning of the year. We had a little powwow at the Cook's Table, and we talked and had a great conversation, and they said, what do we do? And I said, well, you need to recognize people when they donate.
Right.
So they've been really, really keeping track of this meticulously. So I just want to make sure that we honor the hard work.
And that's the right thing to do, to say thank you and recognize people, absolutely. Okay, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, this meeting's adjourned. Have a nice evening, everybody.